Have you been wanting to start your online health coaching business in 2024, but you're perhaps overwhelmed as to basically how to go about doing that? Well, in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you exactly what's working right now when it comes to building an online health coaching business. So for context, for those that maybe are new to the channel, my name is Matthew Sinclair. It's great to have you here. And 5 years ago, I worked as a full-time physiotherapist, part-time personal trainer before deciding to essentially cut all ties, go all in my own online health coaching business, and I haven't looked back ever since. We do multiple six figures per year. We've got clients from all over the world. I've got a team of 5 employees that work with me now, and I want to share with you today exactly what's working in my own online health coaching business so you can go about essentially doing the same in your own. So in this video, we're going to be covering 3 key parts to actually going about basically establishing and starting the online health coaching business that you're wanting to do. So the first thing we want to talk about is the offer. Essentially, what are we selling people? What is it that we're offering people to encourage them to basically sign up for you? What's the promise that you're delivering? So we're going to cover that. We're also going to cover pricing strategies and how to go about charging a fair price, but also a price that's actually going to make this viable for you. And thirdly, we're going to be talking about tactically how to go about acquiring these customers as well to your coaching program. So first of all, let's talk about the offer, and I'm just going to bring you over to my laptop to kind of show you how we're essentially going to go about actually choosing, what it is we're actually going to offer our prospective clients. Okay, so the first step is choosing the offer. So essentially meaning, what is the problem that you're helping someone solve? What is the promise that you're making in the marketplace? And what do you also have experience in helping someone with? And this is probably the most crucial step before we get into anything tactical in respect to, client acquisition, pricing strategies, all that stuff. That stuff doesn't matter if your offer isn't strong enough. And this is a really easy way of trying to identify, what's going to be the best use of what problem will be the best use of your time to focus on. So just looking at this diagram here, I'd recommend actually drawing this out. On the x-axis, we've got the term severity. So severity simply refers to the amount of pain that this is causing someone acutely at the time they experience their symptoms. So a good example of a high severity problem would be, severe migraines. If you have severe migraines, if you've ever had one, you get blurry vision, you've got a banging headache, you're basically out of action until those symptoms dissipate. You can't do anything, you can't work, you can't even have a conversation if it's bad enough. That would be an example of a very high severe problem. It's causing a lot of acute pain and distress. That would be a high severe problem. On the other end of the spectrum, a low severe problem on that same wavelength would be mild headaches that you could easily take a paracetamol for, a painkiller for, an anti-inflammatory for, and it would essentially dissipate all the symptoms. That would be an example of a low severity problem in that it doesn't really affect you too much when it happens. It's an inconvenience, yes, but it's nothing that's going to essentially put you out for the rest of the day. Whereas, migraines would obviously be something that would be quite significant and it would affect you. Consequences on the y-axis simply refers to the long-term implications of not taking action in resolving the issue. So a good example of a high consequence problem would be if you've got type 2 diabetes, you're maybe on metformin, your A1C is very, very high. The consequences of type 2 diabetes, if left unmanaged, are fairly severe problems, potentially heart failure, kidney failure, vision problems. So that would be an example of a very high consequence problem. A low consequence problem on that same vein would be pre-diabetes. You're not quite on medication at the moment. If you were to stay pre-diabetic, yes, it's not great, but if you're on the lower end of the kind of pre-diabetic spectrum, it's not really going to cause you too many issues in comparison to actually being type 2 diabetic, having an A1C that's way above where it should be. That would be an example of a lower consequence problem. So what I'd like you to do is, if you want to pause the video at this point, this would be a good exercise to try. Draw this out and think, first of all, I would actually write a list of basically all the problems that you have experienced in helping someone with. So let's say you're a doctor and you could help someone with their type 2 diabetes, you could help someone with severe migraines, have a think about other things that you could help someone with, maybe PCOS as another example. If you're a physiotherapist, you could think of problems that people struggle with. Again, migraines could be one of those things that you help people with. It could be, disc prolapse, lower back pain would be an example of another problem. So I want you to write out all those problems that you have experience in either helping someone with or basically solving for yourself. And then whenever you've got a list of all those problems, you want to actually put them in to the quadrant in the diagram that you feel would be most appropriate. So as an example, let's use that type 2 diabetes as an example. Severity, well, certainly consequences, it would be high because consequences of type 2 diabetes, as I mentioned, are fairly severe. What is the severity of type 2 diabetes? Well, it depends on the extent. If you're having to take medication on a daily basis and that worries you, every time you take that medication, it's a reminder that your health isn't where it should be. It maybe gives you anxiety, nervousness, like that's a high severe problem. Maybe even like your kids are worried, they've expressed their concern acutely, that causes you distress, that causes you pain. So I would actually put this as certainly a high consequence problem. I would also put it as a high severe problem as well. So I would do that and I would write down then type 2 diabetes just beside that X, and I would actually fill this out with as many problems as you can think of. And then whenever you've got a list of those problems, basically choose which one you want to go for. Choose one that you feel like you've either got the most credibility to help someone with or the most experience in helping someone with, providing that it sits within this upper right quadrant. So that's the first step in choosing a problem that we're going to be solving for your particular client. So the second part then is choosing, okay, what's our pricing strategy? How is this going to work? This is super important as well. In order for you to actually acquire customers profitably, you need to make sure that you're charging a high enough price point to where you've still got margin to spend on actually acquiring that client. So for a majority of online health coaching businesses, unless you're a big name in the industry, you've got loads and loads of followers, which I imagine if you're just starting out, you probably don't have that. You're gonna probably acquire a majority of your clients through paid ads. In order for paid ads to be profitable, you need to be charging high enough price point to where you've got some margin to spend on advertising to acquire that client. Essentially, there's a rule in marketing to where it's not the person that can spend the least to acquire the customer that wins, it's the person that can spend the most to acquire a customer and still be profitable. That's the person that's going to win, because whenever you advertise on platforms like Meta or YouTube, etc., it's an auction site. So you're basically competing against other people that are trying to serve the same niche as you. So by having a high enough price point, you can afford to spend more than your competitors to acquire that same customer, and therefore you can continue to potentially scale that because there's more margin to do. So I'd recommend whenever you start off, I wouldn't charge anything less than $2,000 for a 16-week program. That's still on the lower end, but until you get experience, until you get testimonials, case studies, I'd recommend starting kind of at that level and then slowly building it up until you meet some degree of resistance. One of my old mentors told me that if you're consistently selling to over 40% of the people that you speak to, so if your close rate is at least 40%, you know that you should probably increase your prices. Whereas if you are closing consistently less than 40%, you should probably stick with your current price point until you get better at selling that. So that'll be the second thing, make sure that you're choosing an appropriate price. And I would recommend, for anyone, I wouldn't be charging any less than $2,000 for a 4-month program. So the next thing we're going to talk about now is client acquisition. So what are the strategies that are working right now to go about actually acquiring clients? And as I said, just to kind of put it out there, I still have my online health coaching business. I don't just help people, build their own businesses. I actually still have my own online health coaching business. I know what's working, I know what isn't working because I'm actively doing it at the moment. I spend upwards of £15,000 on paid ads on a monthly basis. So I have a bit of an idea as to, what works and what doesn't. So to come over here, we're going to start from beginners to more advanced. So the best way to get clients whenever you're a beginner is through organic strategies. So this is basically where, rather than essentially exchanging the resource of money to acquire a client, you're essentially using the resource of time and effort to acquire clients. Organic simply means posting content on Facebook, Instagram, whatever your desired platform will be. I would encourage most of you guys probably to use Instagram. And then over the long term, you want to try and build up a YouTube platform as well. But certainly at the start, Instagram would be your best bet. This is basically where you go about putting out content that is valuable to your audience, that helps to solve the problem of, the problem we talked about earlier, the one you've identified. This is going to essentially get people to come into your world. I call this pull marketing. You're putting content out there and you're hoping that someone sees that, gives you a follow on Instagram. The next steps will then be to engage them in conversation, give them the opportunity to have a call with you, and then on that call you attempt to sell your services. So that's the first part. The challenge with organic marketing is it does take time. You need to be fairly decent at content, but there's no risk as far as financially, because you're not putting any money on the line here. So this would be the first step. The second step, as you get a little bit more advanced, I don't recommend people stay in this kind of phase for too long. As soon as you get your first couple of sales and you make a little bit of money and you're slightly profitable, I move on to the second stage. And this is where you do boosted follower ads. Okay, so basically this is where you would create a post on Instagram, and there's two ways you can do this. You can either have a post that's performed well, an organic post that you've put out there, whether it be a reel or a carousel, would be the two I'd recommend you prioritize. If one of those does well, it goes semi-viral, you want to then put some degree of money behind that post. That'll push that out to a larger audience. With a click of a button, you can pay Facebook money to push that out, and because it's been proven to have been successful, given that organically it performed quite well, whenever you put money behind it, it's likely to do very well as well. Now at that point, what will happen is people that see that post will then follow you. Same process, then you would then engage them in a conversation, try to book them on a call, essentially. The other element to boosted follower ads is, instead of boosting an existing post that's performed quite well, is to actually create a post with the intention of using it to essentially put money behind it. So this would be, if you go on my fitness Instagram and you go through my reels and you look through the ones that have the highest views, one of my boosted follower ads has like 800,000 views, something like that, or at least half a million anyway, to 800,000 roughly. That wasn't through organic, it didn't go viral. It was because I created it specifically to put money behind it. So basically the video went like this. I called out my avatar, I called out my problem, the problem that I was helping people solve. I give a little bit of a brief explanation as to what I did, and then I simply asked them in the reel, in the video itself, to give my Instagram profile a follow for free content. I put money behind that, and then I knew that the people that followed me as a result of seeing that post were likely to resonate with what I had to sell, essentially. And then over time, I would engage that person again, have a conversation with them, try and get them on a call. So this is a really powerful strategy for people that are looking to, go into the world of paid advertising. The only issue with this, as opposed to the third option, which I'm going to share with you now, is sometimes it can take a little bit longer to convert, which gives you, if you're relatively new to running ads, a little bit of breathing room in that, if someone doesn't convert to a sales call straight away, that's fine, because they're following you, they're going to see your content over the next few weeks, months, years potentially. They're going to have plenty of time to get warmed up, so that by the time you do have a call with them eventually, they're going to have more trust established and it's going to be easier for you to sell them. The third way is to do, and this is how I get the majority of my clients these days, is Messenger, I should say direct to Messenger DM ads. Okay, so basically this is where I have an ad that is put out to my ideal client on Instagram primarily, and in the ad itself, it's just a very simple image, and I call out exactly what I'm looking for. It's a very direct response ad. I basically say something along the lines of, I'm looking for X person that fits my criteria that I want, that want to achieve XYZ, so the problem that I'm solving. If that's you, simply send me the keyword, whatever the keyword is. What happens then is that person sends you the keyword, and then you engage them in a conversation to then book them on a call. Now it's not a problem, but where it gets a little bit more challenging is you're not encouraging that person to follow you. So essentially, if they don't book in a call from that conversation, the chances of you converting them later down the line is essentially minimal to non-existent, because they're never going to see your content again, unless on the off chance they do follow you off the back of this, but the chances are they usually don't. So you need to be very good at messaging to get them on a call, and then you need to be fairly good at closing as well, because the cost per conversation on this is generally a bit more expensive than it is to have a conversation with a new follower that comes through one of these ads. So you've got to make sure that you're good at what you do, and as I say, this is why this is more kind of whenever you're starting off, you want to focus on organic. As you get a little bit more experience, you want to move into boosted follower ads. And then as you get more experience and more money behind you, you've got more money to play with, then you want to move into direct to Messenger DM ads. And that should allow you to scale your business as well. So hopefully guys, that was helpful in some way, shape or form. If you do have any questions on that, please feel free to drop me a comment below. I do read all the comments. And also if you wanted to see examples of these things in action, the boosted follower ads, the direct to Messenger ads, go ahead and give me a follow on my fitness, on my health coaching Instagram page. You'll be able to see these in action. My health coaching handle is at Matthew Sinclair Fitness. If you search that on Instagram, it'll bring you over there. So we've covered now how to go about starting your online health coaching business in 2024. If you did want a little bit more insight into how to go about actually scaling your online health coaching business whenever you've got it established, I do have another video where I walk you through the exact marketing strategy that I use currently to make multiple six figures a year. I will put that in the video at the end of this, so you can just click that and watch that video as well.